Do you feel that this is something that we as a society need to be concerned about, or is it just something that is blown out of proportion in y'all's mind?
I don't know. I guess it still becomes like, for me, from what I see, it's more of a choice. I mean, as I've grown up, and I've met some people through my little work in prison that I've actually grown up with, that I performed on stage with, that I've seen in other situations, but like you said, it's a split-second thing. Sometimes I don't think that people are just in their mind to say, I'm going to go out here and do such and such. Different circumstances brings about situations, and if we had a stopwatch on it, we could slow time down, and you could actually kind of evaluate, okay, what am I doing and where this could lead me. Some people would make the choices and the decisions they make. As well as when people review different things as far as, and this is me speaking from everything I'm saying is pretty much for myself and not representation of the department I work with. But what I see is that a lot of times when we view different things, the different injustices, and we do have rogue situations and different things such as that also. But sometimes if you look at it like everything else in on TV and everything, if I can show you something 50 times and I can slow it down to seconds, but you have time to process each individual thing, and then you can make a decision about what took place, that's different than live time. When you have a second, and a second goes so fast. So you say, well, if that was me, I wouldn't have done such and such. But you've had the opportunity to watch it at a real slow time. Then you had the opportunity to look at it at 5 or 10 different angles. You've had time to rewind it, slow it down, rewind it, speed it up. What about the person that has to make that decision in a split second? I very much value the police officer that has to go out and patrol the highways and everything, and go to even a domestic violence call, because he doesn't really know what he's walking into. He doesn't really know who's the enemy, who's the foe, who's the victim, who's whatever, till he walks to the door. And then when he does that, he has to make a split decision. Sometimes very quick. And you're held accountable for it. What if everything that you did from your day to day, you did it with the knowledge of somebody saying, okay, what you're getting ready to do, after you finish doing it, I'm going to judge you off of what I just saw you do. And I'm going to rewind it and rewind it and rewind it and play it back until I've got it so slow and so decided that now this is the judgment for you, and you had to do it in a second. I think it's kind of
tough call.
It's imbalance.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Add to that, other things that come into play, like when you're talking about the children growing up. Gone are the days where the village used to discipline you. You go home and you get disciplined by the parents because DIFAS or Child Protective Services, or whatever you want to call it, have made rules and laws to the point where some parents don't even want to discipline their kids. As a result, peer pressure gets a hold of them, and they start doing things that their friends are doing, and then somebody says, hey, y'all, this isn't the way to go, and now you're in trouble. And, it's twofold. Of course, when you get older, it is a choice. But then again, that split-second thing comes into play, and whatever you think is right in that second is the thing that you will most likely end up doing. Whether it be right or whether it be wrong, you're going to make a choice. And, you talk to some guys who are in prison for murder, and one of the first things they tell you, it was either him or me. I had to make a choice, and I'm not ready to die. So I'll do this life sentence, but at least I'm still alive.
Right.
It sounds weird, but when you really think of it, I can't be mad at him.
But I mean, right now, with what we're looking at now is that after years and years and other states, everybody's into reentry right now. And what we're finding out now is, okay, we've kind of kicked around what's the issues, and we've kicked around what may be the causes and how do we address it. Now we come to reentry, which is, okay, now that this has happened, what's the next step? What do we do about it? Because these same people that made the split decision, they got to go back home.
Because I guess one of the things it looks like one of the things that has changed to some degree is there was a time frame, and this is kind of coming to what you were talking about, Tony. Because it seems like right now, which seems to be the more logical way to do things, we're aiming to try to get people to re-enter into society. So no matter what the issue was that got them into the prison system, we're trying to find a way to make them what they would call a productive citizen within the context of citizenry. So we're trying to make them fit within what's going on. There was a time that I remember that there was a lot of talk about rehabilitation, and I was wondering, has we gotten away from that? Has folks decided that that's not even something that we need to be concerned about? Because there was a time that there were people that were trying to say these folks are involved in criminal behavior, and we need to find a way to get them out of the behavior mindset. They were making it almost like a psychological kind of thing or a sociological kind of thing, and not necessarily trying to think about it in the context of getting them into society. So it's really a two-part question. Have we switched from more of rehabilitation to reentry? And then the other question that comes up with that is that I know a lot of times the people that are going through these systems will also complain about what they have gone through that some people might consider mental illnesses or different things that caused them to do whatever they were doing. And I don't know if you feel that the prison systems are doing enough to address that, because I do know that there are some people that might have different mental things that are going on with their mindset as well that are causing them to make these decisions. So I was just wondering your takes on both of those.
Well, from a personal standpoint of it, I think that the prisons right now are trying to address mental health issues, but it's an epidemic in the standpoint of what is society as a whole actually been able to get a grip on this, because it's something that first, I think to a degree that we have to acknowledge is there, and in certain cases that might have been part of the beginning of whatever led them to come to prison. Of course, when we start talking about reentry versus rehabilitation, it's not necessarily like two separate things. It's a part one and a part two. I mean, if I'm going to say I'm going to rehabilitate you, but I'm not going to allow you to re-enter my society, then what have I really done?
Right.
It's like I'm not giving you, I'm not really opening up. I'm going to cure you mentally, but stay over there. You know what I'm saying? It's a thing like I saw on the news earlier today where they're saying this, when you start seeing people that might have mental issues or whatever they might have. They might have autism. That's not necessarily in that same standpoint, but everybody might have a different issue that they're going through. And they're fighting just to have a lemonade stand.
Right.
You know, or something simple as that. They're trying to show that they're – so when we start talking about rehabilitation, yeah, we're still trying to rehabilitate, but at the same time, there has to be a part two, because you're going to come back home. You're going to have to look at it and say, okay, you rehabilitated me, but I don't have a job when I come back out. Or you won't grant me a job. So if I don't have a job, then what else is there for me to do but go back to what I know?
Because I imagine that's probably one of the bigger. Because I imagine that's probably one of the bigger problems that happens with reentry, particularly around here in North Carolina. I imagine even with Dean up there in New Jersey, New York area. But definitely down here, we have so many people that are coming back into the society, coming back into whether it's Chapel Hill, whether it's Durham, whether it's Raleigh, and then they're coming into a place that is very gentrified. So, I mean, they're not able to, go necessarily into a place that's necessarily going to be real cheap in terms of places to live. So from what I understand, that's one of the things that the reentry programs have done is y'all have created like some housing situations that are definitely not going to be in the same price range as what somebody might be doing if they were just going to do it on a regular apartment search. Because I know that there are some programs around here where y'all might have like some transition housing, and that housing might be half the price of what the going rate is for a standard apartment here in the Durham and Orange County area. So it does seem like, but one of the things y'all are doing is y'all are trying to provide them some sense of housing. I just ran into a friend of mine, very well-known person in terms of like doing some behind-the-scenes work in terms of sound and light and technical kind of stuff, but he's actually I don't know if he ever went into the penal system, but he had some hard times that he faced and everything, and now he's actually staying at the Durham Rescue Mission because, you know, he got into a situation, his that was not working out for him for whatever reasons. The rent was much too high, but now he's at the Rescue Mission, and that is actually seeming to be a much better kind of situation for him because that's not going to be the kind of rent rate that is so high these days in our Triangle area. So am I correct in thinking that y'all are trying to find ways to get people some affordable housing, knowing that the housing is very ridiculous in definitely in central cities, whether that's Central City, Chapel Hill, Central City, Durham, or Central City, Raleigh?
Yeah, well, the beautiful part of it is that is what we've become as a community, and it's community partnerships. So you have a lot of people like Bessie Elmore, or a lot of other just community people that are making these things possible, whether it be housing or jobs, because there's people that are willing to, that's considering hiring people that are in prison. You might have a prison that has work release programs where you look at it and you say, these guys that are they're qualified for the job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a lot of them have. It's not though they're giving them anything. A lot of them are qualified, and when you look at it, what kind of employee are you getting? A person who really is looking to make a second chance, so they have the desire to go out and show that I'm worthy of your trust. They've got somebody that's actually pretty much, they view it as a privilege to be working at your establishment, because every day that they work, for the time that they work at your establishment, they're not in prison. So you got somebody that really values coming to work every day.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times they're looking to, and the other thing that they have that the average citizen might not have in a job, I mean, you hope that you get this in your regular workforce, but we know that's not always the case, is that you have an advocate. Because I know that there was a time, I'm not on it currently, but I was on the board for Threshold. And I know that you know about Threshold, Tony, but Threshold did a lot of work with people that had different kinds of, for lack of a better term, mental disabilities and things of that nature. But then there was one of the programs that they did was they would place these people in jobs. I mean, it might be a restaurant job, it might be some other jobs that they would get training in so they could handle that job while facing the ailments that they were dealing with and everything. But then they would have somebody, whether it was a staff member or a board member like myself at the time, that would basically serve as an advocate. So they would go and talk to the employees to make sure that that person was doing well and making sure that they were doing what they were supposed to do, making sure that they were reporting as they were supposed to. And I imagine that you folks that do prison reentry do the same thing, where y'all are doing follow-up visits and checking not just with the ex-inmate, but also checking with the person that has done the hiring of this person to make sure that they understand what they're getting and also understand some of the rules that they are expected to live by as well in terms of working with these people.
Yeah, and as well as speaking with the incarcerated person also, to make sure that when they go to this job that it's a right fit. I mean, some jobs just they're not a right fit. I mean, it's not that we all search for we all have to go through whatever we have to go through. Sometimes it's not your dream job or the perfect job, but you do have to find a fit for you and what you can deal with. These guys that go to these jobs that I've seen them come back, and the one thing that I can say that I really look at from the standpoint of when they come back from that work, it's like I've done something today to that setting, and the setting changes because so many things that we as regular people take for granted daily. And the reason why we take it for granted is because we deal with it. It's common for us. It's common. Something as simple as if you have carpet in your house and being able to walk on carpet. They don't have carpet in prison. It's cement floors. So you figure 5 years or 6 years of 5 or 6 years, you never really walked on carpet.